Okay, we're back for part 1B of social and domestic policy making. So we're going to pick up, we left off with Social Security, so we're going to pick up with Medicare. So remember, Medicare is the program for medical insurance for old people, 65 and over. Okay, Medicaid is for poor people, Medicare for seniors. Okay, so what's the issue with Medicare? Just like with Social Security, it's cost, but actually, the cost issue is much worse for Medicare for the future. Okay, so it was created not in the New Deal time frame, but in 1965 in the time frame of LBJ's Great Society. And what's interesting is supporters said it would never cost more than $8 billion a year. It currently costs about $600 billion a year, 75 times what the cost when it started, adjusted for inflation. So, yeah, 600 billion. That is the essentially within 100 billion of the defense cost. So why is it so expensive? Mentioned this the other day. Is that remember older people need more care and more expensive care. That's why it's in place, right? And I use that sort of saying that pretty much holds true that many people will require in their last 6 months of life the expense of their medical care will equal or be greater than the entire rest of their life combined as far as their medical care is concerned. Because, I mean, that's where the expense is. There are now over 50 million beneficiaries. So 45 million or so of those are retirees. So it's about 90%. Disabled people also get access to Medicare. I'll give you an example. When I first started teaching, one of the guys that was at the school was teaching with was in a wheelchair. He was an avid scuba diver, and he had an accident once and got nitrogen bubbles in his spinal cord, and now he can't walk. And so he's in a wheelchair. So his medical care is paid for by Medicare. Okay, so that just gives you an idea why. But of course, the vast majority there are retirees, and the vast majority will always be retirees. There will be, by the next 9 years or so, there will be 80 million people on Medicare. That's more than a 50% increase in just 9 years. Cost containment for Medicare is extremely difficult because there's billing structures, there's billing differences, there's improper billing, and there is plenty of fraud into the system as well. So it is very, very difficult to control it. And optimistic, if you look behind my picture there, the optimistic estimates say Medicare will be insolvent by 2024. That's just 3 years from now. Insolvent means they will not take in enough in Medicare taxes that's a payroll tax, just like Social Security tax, to cover the bills. So that means the extra money, if things don't change, the extra money will be taken out of other taxes. The government will have to spend more or, of course, borrow more. And that, of course, is the big problem. So just like we talked with Social Security, the estimated long-term liability, we're talking, when we say long-term liability, we're talking like to the end of the century, so that's like 80 years from now, right? It could be as much as $40 trillion with a T. Crazy expensive. All right, so just like we talked about with Social Security, what's the solution? We have some of the same ideas. First of all, we could reduce benefits. Yes, that would be very, very popular with the older people saying, sorry, we're not going to pay as much for your health care. Raise the eligibility age. That's another, both of those things are possible for Social Security too, right? Raise the eligibility age. The older you are, then you're eligible for it. Increase premiums. Since Medicare is actually insurance, not like Social Security seems like insurance, but it's not. It doesn't act that way. This is insurance where older people do pay premiums, just like your parents pay premiums for your healthcare insurance now, and you will pay once you get on your own and paying for your own healthcare insurance. Premiums are part of the thing, so they could increase those. That wouldn't make the old people very happy. We could increase the tax rates on all of us. The Medicare tax rate, we could increase that. Tax increases make everybody happy, right? We could replace it with a voucher system, another thing that the younger people would love in general, where you can use the money that's there to find a better system, a better plan, or something like that. That is a possibility as well. But before I got to finish that slide, but all of those solutions are just like these solutions on the Social Security side. The minute you try to touch them, the other side will holler foul, and you will lose your election. Okay? Social Security and Medicare, both combined or both separately, are both third rail type issues. the healthcare or income for the elderly. Third rail issues. All right, so I mentioned both of those things. The Medicare, maybe the bottom chart here, the bottom part of this chart is the Medicare. That would be the voucher system, is what that talks about. The top one, remember, one of those things was that's very popular, and you can see with younger people, very, very popular, that instead of taking Social Security out, why don't you just let me have my money and I'll invest it? As long as if you start when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, or whenever you first get your job, that is a great way to go. For me, that would be a bad thing to start now, because they've already taken all my money. Okay, they've taken my money. I get my money back. Okay, because I've been paying into the system since I was 19 years old. Okay, but if you're just starting out, that might be a great idea. So you can see, and this is a policy issue, the older you get, no matter which chart you're looking at, for the Medicare or for the Social Security, the older you get, the less you approve of those things. So that's the situation. And remember, the farther to the right you get on that chart, the more likely those people are to vote. That's why it's the third rail. Okay? All right, a couple more things for today. We're talking now the welfare side. So this is the client politics. This is the means tested side. And the ideas that we have is who deserves it. This is what we fight about. How do we define deserves? Everybody in the country, conservative, liberal, whatever. I mean, there's going to be a flake out there somewhere, but virtually everybody knows that the destitute and disabled need help. The safety net is there, and we need it's the degree to what we do it that we have the issues about the conservatives versus the liberals, especially ideologically wise, and which of course is what this is about. We could think of it as everyone deserves a fair share of the national income. We could think of it as the role of government is to redistribute wealth. So everyone gets perhaps not the same amount, but a fair share. That's one way to look at it. The problem, again, of course, is definition. What if you're already working? What if you can work but choose not to? Sometimes there's this thing called welfare dependence that we'll talk about a little bit in the next slide or two. Those are issues involved in that. In the past, generally, Americans have based anti-poverty programs on the former idea. The idea that the destitute deserve it, but to what degree? What does fair share mean? The idea is we might risk what's called welfare dependency if we continue to allow people to voluntarily not work. And that's the issue. And the reading and the questions you have today are going to focus all on that issue there. And you're going to see some things that maybe surprise you and maybe don't. But that's the idea, is if we do it too much and we allow too much income, or too much income in the welfare system, that it makes it better to not work, that could be the problem. That's what we mean by voluntary non-work and things like that. All right, success is a matter of work, not luck. That's the general American ideal since the beginning. Luck and redistribution are more of the European social welfare idea, which may be more and more popular these days as things go on. You never know. We'll see how that goes. All right, two more slides. So just to kind of get the terminology in for what welfare is, the general thing we call welfare these days is really what's called temporary aid for needy families, or TANF. In 1996, there was a bill put forth by the new Republican majority in the House. They were able to push it through and get the President Clinton, Democrat, to sign it. It took 3 tries. He reluctantly went along when it came to be an election year in 1996, and then he claimed credit when it started to work. He didn't really want to do it, though. But the idea was we're going to end welfare as we know it. And what they did was they did a bunch of things. And again, your reading is going to be about this program and the things that it did. It turned grants from categorical grants and aid to block grants, so states could use them the better ways that they needed it. There were strict work requirements. You'll read that. There were lifetime benefit for receiving benefits. You'll read about that. So you couldn't sit on welfare all of your life, things like that. By 2006, if you measure it this way, and that's one of the ways that the article will talk about, by 2006, so 10 years later, the welfare caseloads declined by 62%. Okay? It did what it planned to do. Okay? But then in 2008, actually in 2009, President Obama came into office. Those strict work requirements were reduced or eliminated. Lifetime benefit was eliminated, so you could, the limit was eliminated, so you could start to do that. And then, of course, the rates back on the welfare caseloads rose again. All right, so the last slide then, let's talk about policy. The last thing is Medicaid. Remember, Medicaid is the healthcare system for the poor people. Medicare, older, Medicaid, poor. Okay, it is means tested for sure, definitely means tested. It seems very similar to TAMF. AFDC was what TAMF used to be called, but just in case you see AFDC, that is now what's called TAMF. It benefits a broader population. Medicaid benefits a broader population than welfare does. It's also spent on low-income senior citizens who need permanent long-term care. Okay, that is part of the system. So poor people who need nursing home care, the older poorer people, Medicaid takes care of that. It's not Medicare in that case. So that's why we have a broader population benefiting from this. It accounts for more than half of the government spending. Half of the money the U.S. government spends on nursing home stuff is Medicaid for older people. Okay? And that makes it client politics because for sure, the interest groups that are going to be supportive of this are certainly all those interest groups who advocate for poor people, right? They're going to be out there advocating for Medicaid. But you know who else does? Look at that last line from before. Half of government spending on nursing homes. Guess who is also an interest group in support and advocating for this? That is the nursing home care providers and the suppliers. They are also advocating because that's their income. So it's more than just the idea it's majoritarian because those advocating for the poor who lobby for it, but it's also client politics for the nursing home providers and the suppliers who also then lobby for those particular programs. And Medicaid has survived because of this client majority politics mix. And then the last thing for today is that Medicaid was a giant portion of the whole Obamacare or ACA program when it was put into place. It was a really, really large portion of that. So anyway, so that's it for this first part of social welfare domestic policy. We'll finish up next week, or not later on this week, sorry, and we'll finish up and get ready for the test and we'll get ready for the other assignment that we're going to do. All right, so we'll see you then. Good luck. Have a great couple of days.